of having a grand total of tab subtotals, and that wasn't found in the new version. So I'm going to explain to you how to do it using the BIRT Designer in the meantime. So using one of our configurations, I opened up our Matter notebook and I found matters that have invoices associated with them, because those have some totalable columns on them. So that's what you have here. You have 34 of them. And I'll run the report wizard. And to just run a very simple report. Include the invoices tab. And I guess I only really need a couple of these, I guess. We'll say, and we'll use this total matter column as the column we're going to do a grand total of.
That's the currency column?
What's that again?
Is that a currency column?
Yeah, it is. So then we'll pick, we'll total it, we'll just total matter, we'll add the total there, and, alright, there we go, total matters. Total matters. You see that? And what you want at the very bottom is a grand total of the total matters, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, alright, so we'll save this report. We'll say we go grand total test report. Save that. And then we'll go back into the saved report notebook. And what you'll see here is we got the report in the sort of native report options that we put in. And we'll convert it. So now we have the actual BIRT report design, which I'm told you guys are pretty familiar with, right?
Copy and paste that?
You've done that once or twice before?
Yeah, we've brought it into BIRT a couple times for some minor changes.
Okay.
Just nothing this complicated before.
Okay. So I'll save that into my workspace for BIRT. And here I have the BIRT Designer. And I'll open up the design I just saved. Here it is. And a couple of things you have to do before you can really use the designer against LawManager Web. There's some preferences you have to set, but I know you guys are at least have a working familiarity with this. I have this profile I called LM Studio Advanced _test. So I guess just as a quick overview, as Dina said, it's in the documentation. Under the preferences in the BIRT Designer, after you've installed our ODA data sources, which are just these 2 jar files that you'll get from LawManager when you install LawManager Web, you put them into the plugins directory. See these 2 here? Those act as sort of the data sources for LawManager through the BIRT Designer. So before you start BIRT, you put them in there, start BIRT up, and that will give you this, among other things, this preference page where you can define connection profiles. Like if you have a test server that you have a certain database on, when you want to log in as a certain person, you can set those profiles up here. Right now I just have a connection against our test database on running against my local machine's LawManager web server, because the BIRT Designer's ability to fetch data is tied to LawManager Web.
Does it use the middle tier then?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
And so then I define this connection profile, and then if I go in here under the data sources, I open it up, I sort of have to put the connection profile here, and you can say test connection. And it's contacting the server, and it's logging in, and it's just making sure that, ping it, everything worked. All right, so now at this point I've told the designer, well, this is the data source, I'm going to use it, and I've told the data source where to get information about who to connect to in order to get data. So I could actually run this report, and it'll give me, like, if I click this little preview pane, it'll fetch data for me.
Oh, that is cool. That's going to help a lot.
And it'll also tell you in there you have errors in your design, and it'll help you sort of diagnose that sort of thing. Yeah, so you can see it. And it does, I think, some record limiting when in the preview pane. But up here, if you go into run, you can have it run it and spit out any number of different, what do you call it, formats, PDF, PowerPoint, whatever. All right, so what we want to do is, at the very bottom, have like a grand total of all these. Now, the total matter here is actually defined, if we look in the XML, by an aggregate function. Where is it? Let's see. There we go. It's a bound data column, and it's a structure that uses an aggregate function called sum. And this thing is called net amount total for some reason. And that's what gets actually displayed here. So to reference that, we can just refer to that bound data column. So the best method I found was to use JavaScript. Now, that's one of BIRT's nice features, is that it's integrated with JavaScript, and you can do some JavaScripting on it. And if I click on my header table here, and then go to the script tab, I can pick one of these events. I'll choose onCreate, and I'll define a JavaScript variable and set it to 0, called running total. So now, when this table is created, it'll define this JavaScript variable. So then down here, what I want to do is create a new dynamic text object, put it into here, and now here I have an expression builder. That's just JavaScript. So I can say running total, and then you look at this. It's got all these sort of operators and that sort of thing. So like, and I say like running total equals, and then look for my bound data column here. Here it is. So every time this expression evaluates, it'll add this net amount total aggregate to running total. All right, and I don't want that showing up, because if I were to do a preview now, you would just see a number here. So with this thing, I can go down to visibility and say hide this element for all outputs. So now it'll just sort of be this invisible little, piece of dynamic text that's constantly adding to the running total. So if I were to have another piece of dynamic text down here, yeah, there we go. Now let's try this again.
You chose the text element, not the dynamic text?
Yeah. The dynamic text one is a little different in the way it handles what it's supposed to output.
Okay. So I didn't see what you did there. Did you just put the running total in the text?
Yeah.
With the
and it should print out the value of running total. There. All right, so there you go. That's your total of all the totals, right? But that's not obviously in a very readable format.
Right.
So thankfully, though, we offer ourselves a little formatter in the report context. So we can actually take this code here, which we use elsewhere, and go here. And what this does is we're saying, get the report info. We set this up ahead of time. The report info is just a little collection of a couple of different functions. And we can tell it, take this value and format it as the field on this notebook and on this tab, or this would be blank if it was just the header. And this column, and format the value here as you would see it.
Oh, interesting. So it'll actually pull that formatting out of the LawManager configuration?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So try this now.
Can you do any formatting outside of that?
Yeah, I mean, you can do, it's JavaScript, so you can do pretty much anything JavaScript can do in terms of string manipulation and that sort of thing.
Okay.
But, each column will have its own way of formatting stuff, so that gives you the opportunity to just rely on whatever it is the configuration says the format should be. So there, that's a lot more readable.
Awesome.
And, you can get as fancy as you want to be. This is just JavaScript, so you could say, like, running total, make grids, position stuff, style them, because you can apply CSS the type styles to BIRT reports.
Right, yeah. Now that I see how to do, how to set up that variable and do the running total within the grouping there that was already set up, it seems actually pretty straightforward.
Yeah. BIRT's real powerful, and you kind of have to get to know it. I mean, I'm certainly no expert, despite the fact that I've been working with it a lot. I think it's one of those things where, yeah, so then at the very bottom you have a running total of all that stuff. So at that point, if you wanted to, you could take the design here, and you could go back into LawManager, and you could just paste this back in and save it, and then it should run as you would expect it. Yeah, there you go. So now you can run it from Pro, and you get your changes back into there.
Awesome, good deal. I think it looks great. That's pretty much exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah? Okay. All right, well, does anybody have any questions? I can answer them, but that's pretty much the long and short of it.
I have a couple questions related to the BIRT reports.
Sure.
So in our version, I don't know if it's related to our version or what, but whenever we edit the report in the BIRT Report Designer and it puts in the version as 3.2.22, I think, in the XML.
Yeah.
If I copy and paste that into LawManager, I get an error. If I change that to 3.2.21.
Yeah. What version? Well, it's kind of funny. It depends on what version of Pro you're using and what version of the Designer you're using, because I think the version of Pro you're running is using BIRT 2.5.2.
Okay.
And I don't know what version of the Designer you used. If you just downloaded the latest one, it might have been a little later than that. So there might be some version conflicting. We just upgraded to... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's just so in the future if we update the Pro client, then we won't need to do that anymore.
Yeah, when you update the Pro client, and you'll almost certainly have to, because an upgrade to BIRT 2.6.2 fixed a couple of those wrapping and other problems that you guys brought up. You'll need to use the 2.6.2 Designer.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense. I just want to make sure it wasn't just something.
Yeah.
And also, just to clarify, just to confirm, when you convert a report to BIRT, you lose any query you had connected to it. Like if you only wanted matters assigned to this person, and you save that as JSON report, it has that query built in, so you don't need to open a notebook.
No, you don't. It should have that query built in.
Right, and so, but it seems like when I convert to BIRT and I paste back into LawManager, and I run it on notebook.
Does it return like all matters or whatever it is in the notebook?
However many, that's the limit.
Yeah, we identified a problem a little while ago that I think got fixed, that I think might be causing what you're seeing. But as you saw, I originally selected queried and got 34 invoices. And then I went to BIRT, and when I came back, I still got those same 34 invoices.
Right. So that might also be fixed in the updated